Okay, I guess we'll get started. Right, first and foremost, welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. My name is Nicholas. I am your host as well as the presenters for today's discussion on Zoho One. Welcome also to a new year, right? 2023. We've had an amazing 2022 run. So I hope you had a great year as well last year, and we're starting afresh. So we're coming back with something bigger and better today. Today, we're going to be talking about Zoho One, which is essentially our big suite of apps that include everything we do at Zoho, right? So think of this as an all-in-one offering. We're going to talk about integrated apps. We'll definitely show you a brief demo later on all these various applications that we can use in tandem, right? So do stick around. Now, obviously today we've signed up to be discussing about software, right? We know software and its importance in today's business landscape as well as in your business process. It's super important. Now, if you're a marketer like myself, right, probably a marketing automation tool would make a whole lot of sense to you. We use that to run our lead generation campaigns. We use that to do drip email marketing. And if it's in sales, probably a CRM would appeal to you as well. So we know software is super important, right? Software makes us more efficient. It helps us be more focused. It brings the productivity out of our team. But believe it or not, software can get really, really distracting. And in what sense, right? Especially when you're scaling your business, especially when you're growing as well, and you realize your technology need also needs to scale. So the distraction actually comes from using multiple softwares, right? And now you have different business data residing on different platforms, which probably only makes sense when you look into the application alone. And end of the day, eventually you have to rely on third-party integration tools, which is why we are talking about Zoho One today. We will show you an integrated, unified suite of apps that we have in our Zoho One ecosystem. But of course, when we speak about software, where does this distraction stem from? Number one point here, using multiple tools from different software vendors. And you realize the consequence is that you need more time to reconcile all these different organization data because now they reside on different platforms, right? So we have different platforms to really draw this data from. Something as simple as building a sales report probably takes longer to do so now because now you have to dig through tons of spreadsheets. You have to look through emails. You have to look through a ton of chat conversations and channels. You have to look into invoicing tools, etc. So there are a whole lot of applications that you really have to dive into to build the report. So it gets really distracting, right? So your ability to share, to improve, possibly to even enhance the efficiency of that task will severely be affected, right? It's be severely limited as well. And it's because of this disconnection across all these different applications. So that's what we're really trying to solve with Zoho One. Now, with distraction number two, it's very rare that you have all these software contract renew on the same date, right? If you're using multiple different software vendors, you realize there are different upgrade cycles, renewal dates, and believe it or not, most of the time businesses fall in the traps of not knowing when their renewal cycles are due until that invoice eventually lands on your desk. And that's not really a pleasant surprise that we sort of want, right? And believe it or not, also with software, a lot of times, because it's a subscription-based thing, right? Most of them are auto renewals. So it catches a lot of business by surprise. And you never know when you're actually spending beyond your budget. Again, because you don't have that sort of visibility. And you end up paying for software that goes unused, which is what we term as shelfware, right? Paying for software that you don't use that eventually lands up on the shelf collecting dust, possibly because they might have overlapping functions, but probably because you're paying for something that you don't really need, right? Which is why at Zoho, what we're trying to offer you is one license to really access all these different organization tools, right? And it's really completely up to your comfort level to really decide at what point of time you want to utilize what sort of tools, what sort of apps, right? I'll talk a little bit more about this in the later slides. So let's hang on that thought. Now, distraction number three is it's also a lot to do with compatibility issues, right? As you're using multiple different softwares, it's difficult to get software from different vendors to work together because for simple fact that they're all just built differently. And it really requires a lot of the different IT teams to come together, to brainstorm, to talk about the different integration process and all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, you realize yourself putting a lot of strain on your different IT teams as well. So another distraction here, which I think is probably one of the most obvious, most common one, is dealing with a lot of duplicated data, right? You don't have a single source of truth. You're putting in data on this platform. You're then going to that platform to put another set of data, and you realize there's no single source of truth. And it's almost difficult and impossible to really identify which data is your most accurate source or which is the most legitimate, right? Your agents, possibly your customer service agent, have to spend longer time, really tracking down information. And it's not a pleasant situation that you sort of want to get caught in. Now, of course, I can go on for days in terms of hammering out all these various challenges that comes with using multiple softwares, right? But I really just want to streamline three at the end of the day. This is going to be the three that we want to focus on for today and see how we can overcome that with Zoho One. So number one is, of course, the data silos that comes with using multiple different tools, right? We spoke about that in the earlier examples, the earlier discussions. With that being said, of course, with these different tools, you have to spend more on integrations, and that's a cost that comes with that. And last but not least, we spoke about this as well, straining your IT team, because now your IT team have to think of various ways to deploy and to manage that software, right? It becomes a really chaotic process. So that is what we're trying to solve with Zoho One, right? And what we're really trying to solve here is, and what we've done, in fact, is that we've assembled a single platform that centralizes all these different modular solutions. Now, if you're looking at sales and marketing, we have tools for that as well, right? We have productivity tools, contract building tools, and we have to look at, as a business, of course, we have to look at the P&L side of things, right? The profit and loss, whether you're having positive cash flow and all that. We have a finance application built into the suite as well. Now, we even have HR side of things, right? If you're talking about simplifying your hiring process, eventually training this candidate, integrating them into your organization, there's a HR tool for that as well. So what we're looking at here is really quite a prolific suite of a software. Of course, that is to say you don't have to start with everything at once, but rather start with what you're comfortable with. And the idea of Zoho One is that we want to make this a self-discovery process. As you're scaling your business, you have to also scale the technology in tandem as well, right? And the pitch that we've always been going about is we want to provide a unified business operating system where you can really progressively enhance the use of software over time, right? Without breaking up the processes in your business, or in the term we call fragmenting the business process, as opposed to using these different software tools from different software vendors, right? Based on the challenges that we spoke of already. So finally, to the interesting part is what will we see in this demo, right? So it's fairly simple. As agreed, we will talk about the various tools that comes in here. We will show you a couple of tools and how they work in tandem with one another. But you know what? I figure out that the best way to really go about with this demo itself is to show you a flow. Now, we're all going to come on as Zoho Estate, right? This is completely fictional. We're going to come on as a real estate company, which is a pretty standard real estate company. We do leasing management, we do building of flats, commercial estates, etc. And there are really three portfolios to look at here. Nicholas, who heads the sales and marketing side of things. Occasionally, Nicholas also come on to help with the hiring processes at Zoho, especially when it pertains to sales and marketing. Occasionally for project management as well, right? And then he's going to be working with Jason here, who is a customer of Zoho Estate. Now, this guy, Jason, is going to come on to rent a condominium, and he's going to renovate that into also a home office as well. So we're sort of looking at a hybrid apartment here. Now, eventually, at the end of the day, because we have secured this deal from Jason, and it's a long-standing project, we want to bring on Kevin as well as a project manager to sort of follow through with this project. And we will train Kevin to use Zoho's technology, which at the moment is currently powering Zoho's processes. So 3 main portfolios to really look at here, all right? So let's take a look at the first part of demo just by looking at how a typical day is like for Nicholas at Zoho Estate. And what I'm going to do now is sort of pull out my demo screen. It should take a couple of seconds. So I believe we can see the screen. So coming from Nicholas' perspective, I'm just going to log him in. And this is probably the most exciting part of the day, because now we're finally getting access to all these various software services that Zoho One has to offer, right? And by logging in, this is, by the way, the default page that we will see, right? It's pretty much a customized view of sales, marketing, and support dashboard, because Nicholas is in sales and marketing. So what we're looking at here is very much customer facing. So we've got a couple of emails, from the sales side. It can be, you can sort of filter out sales-centric emails. We've got some live chat conversations going on with Sales IQ. It sort of gives you an idea of what's happening in the Sales IQ side of things. What are the types of prospects and visitors coming to interact with your sales bot that's embedded to your website. We've got some CRM data as well, and really these beats having you screenshotting various reports, putting them together, consolidating them, because what we're dealing with here is really real-time data, right, versus static data. So whatever sort of data that we update in the various platforms, say CRM or in the Sales IQ, they get updated here in real time. And by the way, this is completely customizable, right? As you sort of tell, we have a finance-centric dashboard here. If you want something a little bit more HR-centric, that can be easily built as well. Now, give this a rename. There are a couple of other widgets that can sort of pull in from here into the blank canvas. They're completely resizable. We can drag and drop them. It's fairly easy to use, right? And this really, really simplifies the admin experience, especially when you're trying to look at reports to really get some understanding on some of this business behavior that's going on. So I want to spend the next 2 to 3 minutes just sort of navigating you through Zoho One, especially as business owners or as admins, right? We want to look at how we can come on to grant access to certain users, to really look into some user statistics and things like that. So if we sort of toggle to what's on the left here, we've got a really nice left-hand navigation panel. And by the way, here are some of the pin applications that I've done. And these are apps, by the way, that Nicholas frequently uses, right, on a day-to-day basis. You can rearrange them according to your usage pattern, which is what I've done. So this should give you a glimpse of how this demo is eventually going to go. And that being said, let me just quickly sort of show you the directory side of things as well. You should be able to see a report here, right? And this is a report, or rather a user statistic dashboard that gives us a view of this number of signed users. You can take a look at who is signed, who is at work, from what location have they signed, what are the most utilized applications here and there. Sort of what you want to get here is an idea of, or rather a roadmap of how you want to come on and use other sort of softwares. So this should give you some clarity as well. Besides that, I do want to talk a little bit about the application side of things. One of the various tools and applications that you can see in Zoho One, right? We briefly spoke about that in our slides earlier on. Now we're seeing things from the Zoho One console. First in line, we have a business intelligence tool, right? Zoho Analytics. And you really use these as business owner to sort of, grill in and sort of look into the business behavior, right? How's your sales performing? How's your marketing performing? And then from there on, you'll be able to better make more accurate decision or more informed decision making. Going down the list, you see a couple of other applications as well, right? We've got marketing tools, we've got productivity tools, e-commerce tools, sales, the finance, customer support. And as one I've already mentioned, Zoho One is really, really a prolific software bundle that we're talking about. Now, obviously, you don't have to use everything on day one, and progressively what you want to do is to come on as business owners to really enable different app usage, turn it on, equip your guys, your teams with these different tools to make them more efficient, right? That can be done progressively. So what I like about this is also the user module here. And this gives a breakdown on all these various users our organization have. Now I have 9 users over here. And whenever new joinee joins, in this case, say it's Brandon, right? Obviously, this is a new guy using his current email here. Brandon's got a pretty good access to quite a few applications here, right? And say, for example, we want Brandon to come on to get access to our social media platform, which is Zoho Social. It can be easily done. It can be easily provisioned by clicking on the plus icon earlier on. You can scroll down to the apps that you want to provision, add them with. Now, there are a couple of access that you can give and equip your various users with. Whether it's an admin access, which would probably means they have access to all these various features of the application itself, or maybe a standard user access, and then you just have to select the brand and click done. It's really a fairly simple process. We're talking about 2 to 3 click process over here. And it's as easy as that, right? Your user then get access to these tools, they can start using them. Now, a couple more modules here, group modules. What we're looking at here is within an organization, there are many groups, right? We've got finance group, we've got HR. In this case, we've got project management groups. We have here what we call a conditional assignment module. What I really like about this is you can sort of come on to pre-configure things, and in this particular context, for Zilker project manager, whomever's title is being identified as a project executive or as a project manager naturally gets equipped with all these 6 applications. And it really, really saves you a ton of time going into Zoho One to manually equip them on a one-to-one basis, right? What you're doing here is really creating and developing a shortcut where you're equipping a project manager with all these 6 tools. So anyone who's identified as a project manager gets access to all these applications. You can add more. You can remove a few just based on what types of access you want to grant your users with, right? So now this is just a very basic navigation that I've just shown you of Zoho One. Just from an admin perspective, what the type of data you get to see, what the types of various modules that you can customize and that you can use. There are more to do. So if you're on Zoho One, you probably want to explore that a little bit more. So coming back to Nicholas's case as a sales and marketing director, so what's going to happen first thing in is, of course, besides getting himself a cup of coffee, which is typically what we do, right? When we first start off the day, we want to start off the day right with a coffee. But in Zoho's context, what we want to do is to come into our Click Messenger tool here, which is a team messenger tool where you get to connect with your team members, where you get to connect with your employees at the organization levels at a one-to-one basis. But what we would really want to do at this point of time is sort of go ahead and check Nicholas in so that the rest of his team member know he's available for connection. There are a couple of chats that you can pull up, and you can run them in different streams, right? In this particular case, I want to talk to Adam, who is a marketing guy here. So Adam recently has seen a Facebook lead generation campaign gone out live, right? He's in charge of that. The campaign itself is very much to bring in new leads. So the campaign has gone out live. I probably want to follow up with Adam at this point of time. I can drop him a message here. What I can also do is to immediately hit Adam up with a call over here, whether it's audio call. If you want to do a video call, make it more personable, that can be done, right? It's a fairly simple process here. Now, another thing to do when checking into the office, most of the time we also start off the day by looking into our emails, right? And what you've just seen earlier on is I'm not creating an extra tab and keying in a unique email URL, right? What I'm doing is just really going to the left-hand panel, just toggling to the email view here. And that's what we meant by a unified console, right? That's what we call tab management. We're not creating tons of tabs where it confuses you on a daily basis. Everything is sort of streamlined over here. So going into the email view, I would say this is a pretty standard email view that we have here. This is the inbox view with integrated calendars as well. And really what we want to do is to take a look at all these different events, different activities that we have laid out for Nicholas over here in the span of this week. And what caught his eye here is the Facebook campaign that's gone out live, right? It was the conversation that we had with Adam earlier on. Now there's a link here. We can click on that, and what it's going to do is it's going to direct us into Zoho Social, which is again responsible for all these various social media posts that you want to share to you, and these various captions creations. You can collaborate with team members on that. I'm just going to show you that in the next couple of seconds. But I do want to show you by navigating it through the left-hand panel rather than going into the link itself. So let's go into Zoho Social module here. Okay, and what you're going to see again is every default page. In fact, most of them at Zoho, when you go into the app alone, you will see really nice reports and dashboards, right? We have a couple of social media accounts that is really linked and sync with Zoho Social here. That means as a social media manager, I will be able to sort of look at the different brands over here, sort of to engage with the different audience that comes and interact with these different pages as well. I can even, control the types of posts that I want to go out live. So that being said, Nicholas, having chatted with Adam, he's going to go ahead and go into the lead forms module here, sort of check things out and look at the effectiveness of the campaign itself, whether he has already brought in some leads, right? Leads that we are able to potentially convert into a sale. So this is the very advert that has gone out live from Adams, all right? It's a pretty, standard advertisement that we're seeing here. You can get advertisement statistics in terms of its performance, right? What's the cost per click? What's the click-through rate here? You want to dive into demographics, that can be done as well. If you have a big enough sample size, you will see a much nicer metric over here. Now, what I'm really interested in is also the CRM stats, right? Meaning to say, how many leads are we able to sort of bring in just based on the campaign alone? Now, we effectively have 4 here. So I would say these are pretty, effective campaigns that we put out on Facebook. Now, what's going to happen at this point of time in parallel is Jason, right? Remember Jason, the customer? Jason here would have seen the advertisement that's gone on Facebook. What's going to happen? He wants to find out a little bit more about Zilker. He wants to rent an apartment, right? He's going to go to Zilker's website. So what we're going to do now is to toggle to Jason's view, all right? And we are going to go into Zilker's website here. So the advertisement has sort of led Jason to this website here. And I would say this is a pretty standard site that we have. We've got some really nice hero banners, some nice landing page, carousels, and all that. And by the way, this is built using Zoho sites, right? By my team and myself, it's really based on a drag and drop basis, not much, HTMLization and all that. But beyond that, as a pretty standard, real estate company, we also want to sort of list our property out there and create more transparency. So you can put your properties out there. We've got a couple of galleries going on over here. As you probably would have noticed, when we sort of land onto the website, we are greeted by the live chat agent here. Now, this is powered by Sales IQ, which is a live chat agent, especially as a business. If you're running your business across various geographies, across various time zones, believe me, this is going to be really handy for you. Why? Because it's going to give you the 24/7 presence when your agents sort of step away from your desk. So Jason seeing this, and what he wants to do, or rather what we want him to do, is to go and interact with the bot, right? He wants to rent an apartment over here. So let's go with the options that we have. So we want to rent an apartment. Let's take a look at what apartments can we rent. Rent the Singapore apartments, say for example. Okay, Tampines Garden. Now take note, at this point of time, right, toggling back to Nicholas's view, I'm going to take a pause at the live chat agent and come back to Nicholas' view over here. So when Nicholas goes into the Sales IQ application, what you're going to see is, of course, besides the advertisements, right, what you're going to see is you have here really a sales radar, right? So Jason flies under the radar of Nicholas. Obviously, Nicholas over here as an agent sort of knows that Jason is currently a live customer on the website. And when we click on that, what we have here is a history of all these pages, these different navigations that Jason has done. He's currently at the process of conversing with Nicole, the chat avatar, right? So let's go back to Jason's view. Say we want the apartment. I'm going to click yes, I want the apartment. I can schedule a meeting over here. Schedule a meeting, choose a slot to get connected with our agent, right? I get the option of connecting with a human. What I want to do is connect with a human, right? And in Nicholas's view, of course, the Sales IQ will signal a notification. It will start ringing. and Nicholas will come to Sales IQ. He sees that, hey, Jason wants to connect. Let's go ahead and accept that. Okay. And what you see here is immediately Nicholas takes over this entire conversation from Nicole, the chatbot. And if I can go back to Jason's view, right? Nicole, the chatbot, has gone offline. Nicholas has come online to sort of take over. So let's go ahead and just sort of chat up Nicholas and say we want to go with something like, hey, Nicholas, I'm really interested in Tampines Garden. Are you available for a call? Right? And on Nicholas's end, he's going to be able to pick this up. He's going to reply by saying, sure, I will call you. Okay? And obviously, that's an indicator to make the call, right? So we have the call icon at the top. This is powered by Zoho Telephony. So again, when we sort of make that call, right, on Jason's end, it's going to start ringing, right? Saying that Nicholas as the agent is sort of calling in. He can accept that. And, you know, it's a fairly simple process. You get connected online. You know, if you want to have a detailed conversation, if ever Nicholas needs to share his screen, that can be done as well to complicate a little bit more in a more detailed sense, right? If you want the conversation to be more detailed, that can be done. So let's fast track a little. Let's end the call and say, from Jason's end, let's thank Nicholas here, right? Thanks, Nicholas. Looking forward to this Saturday's apartment viewing at 2 p.m. All right? And this is pretty much a signal to sort of end off the conversation. So, thanks, Jason. See you soon. We're going to end that off here. So what Nicholas is going to do is going to end off this conversation, but take note the conversation and the transcribed conversations and call are already being documented here for reference. Okay? But that's not it, right? So even when we sort of close off this conversation, we have also, with the conversation, captured and picked up some of this information of Jason's. We've got his phone number. We've got, you know, the various sources in which he have come in and visited the sites, his IP addresses, and all this sort of stuff. But beyond that, we would have also created a lead into the CRM over here, right? So once we've made the conversation with a prospect, that prospect's conversation gets captured, it gets pumped and flushed right into the CRM. So what I want to do here is also to help the sales agent out a little, right? I want to add a little bit more note here to sort of supplement our conversation here, to add a little bit more context to what has transpired during this call. So let's go and say that this is a hot lead looking to convert condo into a home office, right? Let's click add. Fairly simple process. And what we're going to do as Nicholas here is head back into his Zoho One view. Now take note, we've got this highlighted section at the bottom here. And when we click into that, again, this is powered by Zoho Click, right? We would have been notified that we've got a new sales lead coming into our pipeline, into our CRM pipeline. So how we're able to sort of achieve this is built based on a workflow rule that we built into the CRM. And that will mean that whenever we have a new lead, right, identified into the pipeline, that's going to notify our sales-centric conversation called Zilker, Consultant, and Estate here. So there's no way Nicholas as a salesperson is ever going to miss out on any hot lead or warm lead, right? So we can be a little bit more time sensitive here. Of course, we can click on that view record. That's going to sort of redirect us into the CRM. But what I'm going to do here is go into the CRM view that we can sort of access via the left-hand navigation bar. We're going to be seeing a pretty standard CRM view, right? Homepage, as I sort of mentioned earlier on, you know, we get to see statistics and dashboard. But let's go into the leads module here. Okay, you should see Jason's record being identified here. What we're going to do is click into that, and you will be able to see all these different conversations, these different notes, right? What are some of the archive conversations they are all being documented here in the telecast view. And these are, by the way, some of the shortcut ways to sort of direct you immediately to the section, because that CRM record can host a lot of information. And this really acts as a shortcut for that. So we've got some really nice information going on as a sales agent. What you can do is also come on to manually sort of fill up things. It's basically your main mandate, right? But what we want to do here is go ahead and, say, for example, if you want to sort of send an apartment viewing appointment, right? We want to capture his timing, Jason's timing. We can send an email here. Again, we're not going to another email page altogether. What we're doing here is going to the CRM view, sending email from the CRM. And obviously, I have a couple of templates for that already. So let's pick an apartment viewing email template. But of course, we need to personalize this further. And we've agreed on the time to be Saturday, 2 p.m. as agreed. And when we click send, what you find out here is the email is going to go out. The email conversation is going to be captured within this record as well. Okay, when we sort of go to the email view, you will be able to see this little icon here, which is powered by what we call sales signal. Sales signal is essentially a feature in the CRM that tells you, how your recipients are responding to your emails, whether your customers have seen, have opened, or have even reverted with a response. That can sort of be tell with this, messenger icon over here. So you have all these email conversations being captured as part of this. So obviously, this is not a raw lead anymore. We have already spoken to Jason. We know clearly he's very interested. So, let's fast track a little and convert him into a context. And what's going to happen in parallel is we get the option of creating a deal for this, right? If we are able to already identify a number, we want to go ahead and sort of put that in. Give this a closing date. I'm going to identify the property to be Pampani's Garden, following the example that we have earlier on, right? Change the owner to myself. Change, convert. And in this conversion, again, when we sort of go back to the email, or rather to the leads module, you realize that the lead record of Jason is strike off the list. It no longer appears here because whenever you do this conversion, that lead gets converted into a contact. You probably find it under contact. Okay, so now Jason is a contact here. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. I'm going to go into the deals module. Obviously, we know very well that Jason's clearly very locked into this apartment here. And when we go to the deals module, what we are hit by is immediately a view of what we call pipeline, right? It's a pipeline stage. And from here, you get to sort of anticipate what's expected as the next sales stage here. So clearly, we've identified the property. We know very much now we need to send a tenant application form to Jason in which he has to sign and revert back to us. So we are going to go ahead and sort of click that, right? So this should be able to sort of identify that we're at the tenant application stage for any other sales agent who's going to come on to collaborate on this deal itself. So going down the list, let's go ahead and sort of clean up some of these fields that we have here. Again, that's our main mandate as a salesperson. Okay, I'm going to give this an account name. But let's add a new account. Dear Brothers Design, let's give this a phone number. I'm going to save and associate. Oops, let me just clean this up. Give this an email as well. Okay, types of inquiry is a tenant application. Application stage right now, we have already started the application stage, right? So take note as we sort of indicate this as start. What's going to happen is you soon realize that the view changes automatically, right? So when we input the value start here, that's going to offset or rather kickstart what we call a blueprint process. So a blueprint is a process management functions that sort of give you a very standardized sales flow or sales process to guide your sales agent through, right? So there are mandatory steps that we have to take note here. Very first step, of course, is Jason has reverted with that tenant application form. We receive it. What we want to do now is to do a document check, right? As a sales agent, you have to do a due diligence. You have to check whether application form has been completed, whether this guy's got any criminal background, whether he has a current job that's paying him, right? So we're asking for bank statements. Click Save. We have another set of checks, which is to do a credit check. Want to look in the bank statement. Now take note, even as we sort of do the check halfway, we may not have all the necessary materials or resources to complete the check. We can still save that process. As you can sort of see here, right, it will say that it's only halfway done, 50% filled, and we can always come back on another day to sort of complete this process. So let's go ahead and finish up the checklist here. Okay, let's click Save. Now take note, none of these checks are completely senseless. They are with a purpose. So we've done the checks, right? If we sort of scroll down, what we have configured in the blueprint is once we have checked and marked all those checklists, it's going to go ahead and fill up these various fields here. So that should signify that, hey, your sales agent has done their due diligence of check. They've come on to document this. So last check here is an inventory check. We want to go ahead and sort of check our inventory list if we have enough materials, resources to follow through with the renovation process. Okay, we're going to go into our inventory module. Let's take a look at the items. Okay, we've got everything here, right? We've got enough stock at hand. You probably also want to set a threshold. If you go below a certain number, probably you also want to prompt yourself to come back and restock. But nonetheless, that being said, we have enough stock at hand to commence with the renovation process. And what we're going to go is go back to the CRM, go back to checklist, and indicate that we have sufficient inventory. And click Save. Again, what I really like about that is as we sort of hop back into the CRM, you're sort of able to tell that we can carry on from where we last left off, right? Rather than having the entire CRM page refresh all over again. So that gives us more continuity of tasks here. And of course, coming back to this blueprint, we want to go ahead and approve the applications because we have done all these checks. And like any approval process, we have to justify that. So let's go ahead and keep things simple and say no red flags. Click Save. There you go. Application approved, completed. It's fairly simple. But we know very well now that we also need to send forth a lease agreement form. So what we're going to do is, of course, besides marking this as marking this pipeline, is we have to send forth a form here in which we have, because we have already integrated CRM with Zoho Sign, what you'll get to see is I get to send this with a Zoho Sign document. We've created a template. It's a fairly easy process. We can pick a template. That should save you some time. Okay. Let's pick the template, Office Agreement. Click Create. And in this process, while it's loading, what you realize is it's going to personalize this document with all this CRM data that we've just filled in the earlier stages. Okay, so it's going to save you time coming in to manually input this customer's record and all that sort of stuff. Let's also give a note here. Please sign accordingly. Okay, and hit Quick Send. There you go, completed. Right, but that's not all. Now we've sent this form for signing. What I want to do is toggle back to Jason's view and sort of check out his email here. And first in the inbox, we get a sign request from Zoho Sign, right? So Jason is going to go ahead and sign this, proceed to document. It's very self-explanatory, I would say. As you sort of look through the document, we have already got some information coming in. It's information that we have already filled into the CRM prior, and that's what I meant by combining the documentation with all this, various data that we've input. Let's go ahead and sort of check this checkbox, agree and continue. There you go. Right, and you really have the options of how you want to sign this. Let's keep things simple and sign this with Zoho Sign. Again, it's a couple click process. It's a very easy process. Once you've signed the documents, but of course you have to check those first. Once you're done with those, you can email a black and white copy to yourself. But take note, Jason has not emailed a copy to Nicholas yet, right? But what you realize is if we go back to Nicholas's view, coming back into the CRM as we sort of refresh this page altogether, you would see, right, the signed documents being registered as part of Jason's record. Now we have everything coming into the CRM at once. So it really gives you, more understanding of the customer, more context of what this customer is about, what you have done with the customers, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, there you go. Zoho signed document has been signed. It has been reverted with a PDF copy being attached to this very record itself. So again, we want to sort of go ahead and seal the deal here. What we want to do here is we can also create an invoice. What we have configured here is a one-click process. Clicking on that should also personalize the invoice, right? We will get to see that in a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and mark this as close one. Click save. Now we'll come back to the CRM to show you the invoices. It will take a while to sort of load up and just equip the record. So ladies and gentlemen, that is what we mean by bringing leads into the pipeline, nurturing them, converting them within the CRM itself. So obviously at this point in time, we know very well that we've got money coming in, right? We know big money is going to come in. So what we want to do, again, just based on the narrative that we sort of spoke about in the slides, is we want to go ahead with hiring process. And we're going to push an ad out on LinkedIn in which Kevin, right now as a potential project manager, will be seeing this very advertisement itself. He, like Jason, is going to go to Zilga's website here. So now we're in Kevin's view, right? You know how amazing website can be, right? It's not just meant for your customers, but very much for potential employees as well. It's the same website that we've seen here. I'm not going to go through every single page again, but rather toggle to this career page, which is, customized here, right? It's a custom built page. It's a career page that we post all our various job openings on. So this, scrolling down the page, of course, you'll see a couple of job openings here. Now, this is created using our ATS system, our application tracking system called Zoho Recruit, right? We've built that in Recruit. We've published that through Recruit. But what we've done is really embedded the code on this website. And coming on, Kevin, who is very interested in the project executive role, is going to go through the summary of the job description here, right? Everything is sort of interest to him. It matches his interest. Let's go ahead and sort of, upload himself a resume. So let's go ahead and upload a resume. And you realize that while this resume may be a PDF document, right? Uploading it, you would see that it's able to sort of fill up, all these mandatory fields over here. Why? Because it's based on the parsing technology, right? It's able to sort of pick up this customer's data, or rather, sorry, this employee's data, this candidate's data, and input these mandatory fields. We'll check through everything's there. Go ahead and submit application. All right, and that's done. That's really a very simple way of, uploading your resume. So what we are going to do is go back to Nicholas's view, okay? And immediately when you're able to see, even when we are in the CRM itself, we are able to pick up that a new candidate has applied for the role, right? And this comes in also through click into the HR channel here, also powered by the workflow that we've built in Zoho Recruit, right? So we are getting this notification. And what Nicholas is going to do, because he's the main hirer here, he is going to go into Zoho Recruit's page and just go ahead and look into the candidate's resume and record and qualify him from there on, okay? So we're going to go directly into the candidate's view. Okay, so we have the candidate's view here. Kevin records comes in. Click into that. You would have very much like the CRM, right? This looks an awful lot like a CRM. But coming back to Zoho Recruit, you will have had all this different information from Kevin. Again, just based on the parsing process, it's able to pick up from the PDF document. It's able to come on to populate these various fields here. Pretty standard. But what we can do is, if you are a recruiter manager, you probably want to evaluate this and notify the hiring manager. That can be done by this little icon over here. You can submit this to a hiring manager, pick a template for that email, hit him up. He should be able to get notified. But because in this case, Nicholas is the hiring manager himself, after looking through this, when he's interested, he can go ahead and immediately schedule for an interview process, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and schedule for an interview, a face-to-face interview. I sort of want to know, Kevin's interpersonal skills here. I want to know how he's responding to questions and all that. So I'm going to pick myself as the main interviewer, pick a location where we want to conduct this interview at. It's going to be our main office. Of course, you want to pick an assessment here. Hold on a second. So let's pick general screening interview. So basically what assessments are is these are a set of questions that are mandatory for you to sort of ask during the interview process, right? So that's the assessment form that we're talking about. Let's take a look at the time. Time now is 11:40. Let's go ahead and mark this as 11 a.m. So why I'm doing that to the time is so that I'll be able to access the assessment form right now. Because again, if you were to schedule the interview 1 week later, you'll probably only be able to access the interview as well as the questions that you have set a week later. So, which is why I'm manipulating that time format over there. So coming back to this, we've scheduled an interview, right? We're going to go into the interview right away, just to fast track a little, right? Interview day arrive, right? We conduct a face-to-face interview with Kevin himself. Let's go ahead and pull up the questions here. We are going to evaluate Kevin over here. So check everything here, right? Kevin sort of gave all the model answers, pretty much a model candidate. We're very happy with him. You can go ahead also to add a comment and say something like, hiring salary expectation is within hiring budget, right? Something like this or of this sort. You probably also want to mark a overall recommendation and say that this is a strong hire. Please send offer letter and follow up. Okay, so these are the type of responses that you want to have and equip the record with. So it should give you a very nice document of what are some of the review comments, etc. We're going to go back to Kevin's record here. So clearly Kevin is someone who we really, really want to hire over here. And what we can do is right away within Kevin's record, we can go ahead and generate an offer letter here. Again, this is a process that is highly personalized, right? It's fairly simple, very self-explanatory. You're sending an offer of contract. You just have to make sure that the various fields like the posting title is correct, the department in which Kevin is going to be parked under is correct. Let's give this an amount that we have agreed on, which is 4,000. Give this an expected join date, an expiry date as well. Sort of drive some sort of urgency. You can preview the offer letter. In this case, you can also get to preview the offer letter during the sending process. Okay, so review once more. Click send. Okay, great, it's sent, right? So right now, what we want to do is go back to Kevin's email here, right? We are going to go into his Outlook account. He received this offer letter created by Nicholas. Okay, let's view the offer letter. I'm just going to sort of zoom this in so that everyone gets to see what's going on, right? So it's pretty much a personalized offer letter. We've got the date going on. We've got a compensation amount. Kevin can even come on to thank Nicholas and say, thanks, Nicholas, see you soon. Something of this sort, right? Let's go ahead and accept the offer letter. Now take note, Kevin will still be able to come back to this link and see the offer letter being accepted, right? It's everything is pretty much documented over here. So going back to Nicholas's view, because Kevin has accepted the offer letter, what we want to sort of see is also a hiring pipeline. That should give us a history of all these various, hiring processes that we have done. On this date, Kevin has applied, an interview has been scheduled, offer has been made. Right now, offer has been accepted. So we know that this candidate has accepted the offer letter. What we can do is go back into the job opening to sort of close off that job itself for the title project executive so that no new candidates will be able to sort of apply that unless you have extra position for that very role itself. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that is how we can simplify the hiring process with Zoho Recruit. Now take note, because Recruit is integrated with Zoho People, upon hiring Kevin here, Kevin's record is going to be created in Zoho People, which is our HRMS portal that we're talking about. So what we're going to do now is toggle back to Kevin's view here. Okay, let's go into Kevin's Zoho One account. Again, anyone who's joined Zilker will indefinitely have to use Zoho One, because that's what's powering Zilker's processes. Okay, so Kevin coming in here on his first day, very much like Nicholas, first thing he has to do is check into his email. Again, very standard email view. But Nicholas has already sent forth an email here to Kelvin indicating employee onboarding. And when he clicks into that, there will be a link to direct Kevin to a custom onboarding flow here, which should guide Kevin through all these various onboarding process, whether it's getting acquainted with help documents, whether it's acquainted with learning documents, playbooks for project management, etc. That will all be available at this very stage itself. So as you can sort of tell, we talk about this being a flow. Coming on, we have a welcome message by Nicholas. Kevin himself can come on to sort of revert and say, hey, thanks for welcoming. Get acquainted with his team members as well. Right, he will be able to see who is part of the team and all that sort of stuff. He can even be able to come on here to fill up some of these fields that he left out in the earlier phases of applications, sort of to give his profile at Zilker a little bit more, give a little bit more detailed profile, right? Because as employees, that's what you have to do. Now, what I think is more important as part of this flow is the various training tools and courses that we have over here. Right, there are sales courses, CRM courses, how to use certain tools at Zilker, etc. What stands out here is project management course, which is what we want Kevin to really look into. Okay, so all this is being powered by Zoho People, right? Take note of that. So you can sort of pick up from the URL over here. Coming in, we'll be able to sort of see the overview of whatever this course is about. There is a module breakdown. I can spend an entire day going through what Zoho People is, but let's just really fast track a little here. So we want Kevin to go ahead and take a look at project management playbook, in which is going to direct us to Zoho Show here. So Zoho Show here is a presentation deck builder. It's basically a slides here, right? So let's navigate Kevin through some of this content, shall we? So the very topic here is how to analyze the market with a business intelligence tool. And at this point of time, what you'll probably be able to see is a chart and a report that's going to be able to be pulled up using Zoho Analytics. Because what I've done is really integrated analytics with Zoho Show. So what we're able to do is to be able to pull over data, right? Reports, charts, tables from Zoho Analytics and park it within the presentation deck itself. But take note, how is this different? These charts and this report, this diagram is completely interactive. And again, as Kevin here, what we want to do is to make it as interactive as possible for him, because that's really gonna spice things up in terms of training, right? So going into this, he'll be able to sort of expand these various hidden data that's being hosted in analytics. That should give him an idea, especially when we are looking at total transacted price by this different buyer when it comes to the types of hotel they have acquired, right? We are being given a little bit more in-depth details over here. Now, because this is completely interactive, we can't even get into the specific by unchecking some of these elements, just highlighting Apricot Raffles Place, as a hotel over here. That can be done. So all this is completely interactive, and don't get that from bringing in screenshots from spreadsheets and all that. So another chart example that we've brought in from Zoho Analytics, right? So very interactive. Kevin can take his time to sort of relook into things over here. There are a couple of other help links that we have put in here as well, but in other document formats, right? We've seen the presentation document. What we want to see now is also powered by Zoho Sheet. This should be able to give us or give Kevin pretty clear understanding on the responsibility assignment metrics. Who is responsible for what sort of tasks? Who is accountable for what sort of tasks? It's all being laid out over here in a very transparent manner. And a couple of other help documents as well being powered by Zoho Writer, which is a word processor tool that you can also find in Zoho One. So fast track a little, Kevin has finished up the training. Okay, what we want him to do is to go back and report back to his manager and sort of tell Nicholas that, hey, Nicholas, I've completed my training. What's next for me? Do I go ahead with the projects? What are projects that I should be assigned and tagged to, etc. So what I'm going to do is quickly go back into Zoho people here, search up Nicholas, right, and have a very quick conversation saying that, hey, Nicholas, I have already finished up my course. What's next? There you go. So I've inputted a comment here just to speed things up a little, and Nicholas would have pasted a couple of helpful links, right? That's what, really workplace managers should do. So clicking into the link, that's going to direct Kevin to Zoho Connect here. Now, take note, for all Connect users out there, we probably know what this is. For non-Connect users, Zoho Connect is a social intranet platform where you host all these various organization discussion, announcements, product updates, project updates. What I can tell here is very much a project update, right? It's and with a couple of helpful links as well for Kevin. But more importantly for Kevin as a project guy is Nicholas has pasted a project link directing Kevin to the project view. And he can get to see all these various projects that's ongoing and all that. So that's really how to train your guy, get him equipped with all these necessary resources, with these different tools, etc.